A daughter's burden. Rebecca Hayes pressed her forehead against the cold bus window, watching the countryside blur into highways as she traveled toward New York City. Her father's words from the night before echoed in her mind like a haunting melody. The leather portfolio on her lap contained everything: financial statements, employee records, restructuring proposals, all meticulously organized, all desperately hopeful. Willowbrook Textiles had been the heartbeat of their small Pennsylvania town for 40 years. Her father, Thomas Hayes, had built it from nothing, hiring locals, supporting families through hard times, creating more than just a business. He had created a community anchor. Now, thanks to a supplier's fraud and a series of unfortunate market shifts, everything was crumbling. Rebecca had spent the last month calling investors, sending proposals, making pitches. Only one person responded: Nathaniel Cross. The name alone carried weight in business circles. At 34, he had transformed failing companies into profitable enterprises with seemingly ruthless efficiency. Some called him a genius. Others called him heartless. Rebecca just called him her last hope. The city that never sleeps, New York, overwhelmed her senses the moment she stepped off the bus. Manhattan rose around her like a concrete jungle, indifferent to small-town problems. Rebecca gripped her portfolio tighter, navigating through crowds of people who moved with purpose and speed she had never experienced in Willowbrook. The address led her to a sleek tower in Midtown, all glass and steel, reflecting the gray autumn sky. Inside, the lobby was marble and modern art, security desks, and elevator banks that seemed to stretch endlessly upward. Rebecca felt her confidence waver. What was she doing here? What made her think she belonged in this world? Rebecca Hayes? A woman in an expensive suit approached, her smile professional and distant. "Mr. Cross is expecting you. Follow me, please."
Ow.
They rode the elevator in silence to the 42nd floor. The doors opened to reveal an office that looked like it belonged in a magazine floor-to ceiling. Windows showcasing the city skyline. Minimalist furniture. Abstract paintings that probably cost more than her father's annual salary. And there, standing by the window with his back to her, was Nathaniel Cross, the man behind the name. He turned slowly, and Rebecca's breath caught. The photos she had found online did not do him justice. Tall and lean, with dark hair touched with silver at the temples despite his relative youth. Sharp features and eyes so intensely blue they seemed to see straight through her. He wore a charcoal suit tailored to perfection, no tie, the top button of his white shirt undone in a way that suggested controlled casualness. "Miss Hayes." His voice was deep, measured. "Please sit." Rebecca sat in the chair across from his massive desk, placing her portfolio on her lap like a shield. Nathaniel did not sit. Instead, he walked around the desk, leaning against it, arms crossed, studying her with an expression she could not read. "I reviewed your materials," he said, "thoroughly, and—" Rebecca's voice came out steadier than she felt. "Your father made poor choices. Trusted the wrong people. The debt-to-asset ratio is terrible. Operationally, you are outdated. Competitively, you are vulnerable." He paused. "In short, Willowbrook Textiles is not a sound investment." Rebecca felt her stomach drop, but she refused to show it. "Then why did you ask me to come?" Something flickered in his eyes, interest perhaps, or calculation, because numbers do not tell the whole story. "You employed 300 people in a town of 2,000. You are not just a business. You are a lifeline. Then you understand why we need help." Rebecca leaned forward, hope rising. "With proper investment and restructuring, we can modernize. We have skilled workers, loyal customers, and stop."
That's...
Nathaniel raised his hand. "I am not interested in your pitch." "Then what are you interested in?" He moved closer, standing directly in front of her chair, looking down with those penetrating eyes. "You—" Rebecca blinked. "Excuse me?" "You have something I want, Miss Hayes, and I have something you need. I propose an exchange." Her heart began to race, but not with excitement. "With dread? What kind of exchange?" Nathaniel pulled his phone from his pocket, tapped the screen, and showed it to her. A wire transfer confirmation. $8 million. Dated for tomorrow. That is what I will deposit into Willowbrook Textiles account, he said. Full restructuring support, new equipment, training programs, debt forgiveness. Everything you need to not just survive, but thrive. Rebecca stared at the number, her mind spinning. In exchange for what? He put the phone away, his expression unreadable. 1 month. You stay here in New York. With me. The words hung in the air like poison. Rebecca stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the polished floor. You cannot be serious. I am completely serious. You are asking me to. She could not even say it. I am asking you to give me your time, Nathaniel said calmly. Your company. 1 month where you belong to me. In return, 300 families keep their livelihoods. Your father keeps his legacy. Willowbrook keeps its heart. Rebecca felt sick. This is blackmail. No, this is business. He moved back to his desk, sitting down as if they were discussing nothing more controversial than a merger. You have something I want. I have something you need. Unlike most business dealings, I am being completely transparent about the terms. Why? Rebecca demanded, her voice shaking with anger and disbelief. Why me? You could have anyone. For the first time, something human crossed his face. Loneliness, maybe, or a hunger she did not understand. Because everyone who comes to me wants something. Money, connections, opportunity. They pretend to care about me, but they care about what I can give them. You are different. How? You would rather hate me than use me. He stood again, walking around the desk until he was close enough that she could see the fine lines around his eyes. The weariness beneath the power. That honesty is rare, valuable. I am not for sale. Rebecca's voice came out as a whisper. Everyone is for sale, Miss Hayes. The only question is the price. He handed her a business card. You will have 48 hours to decide. After that, the offer expires. The long journey home, Rebecca stumbled out of the building, her mind reeling. The city noise assaulted her car horns. Construction, a million conversations happening simultaneously. She walked without direction, clutching the business card until the edges cut into her palm. How dare he? How dare he reduce her, reduce everything to a transaction? But as the initial shock faded, reality crept in. She thought of the factory workers who had known her since childhood. George Miller, the production supervisor, who had 3 daughters in college. Janet Morrison's son, who had just gotten hired. The single mothers, the older workers, who would never find other jobs. The young people who would have to leave Willowbrook if the factory closed. 300 families. Rebecca found herself at a small park. Sitting on a bench, as dusk fell over the city, she pulled out her phone and called her father. Becca. How did it go? Thomas's voice was so hopeful it broke her heart. It went fine, Dad. He's considering everything. I will know more in a few days. That is wonderful. I knew you could do it. Rebecca closed her eyes against the tears. Dad, how much would you sacrifice for the factory? For the people? There was a long pause. Everything, sweetheart. Everything I have. Why do you ask? Just wondering. Her voice cracked. I love you, Dad. I love you too. Come home safe. The call ended, and Rebecca sat alone in the gathering darkness, staring at Nathaniel Cross's business card. She thought about sacrifice and dignity, about 300 families and one impossible choice. By the time she boarded the bus back to Willowbrook, she still had not decided. But somewhere deep inside, beneath the anger and the shame, she knew what she was going to do. Because some choices are not really choices at all. They are simply the weight of love measured against the cost of pride, and sometimes love wins. The decision that changed everything. Rebecca stood in her childhood bedroom, staring at the phone in her trembling hand. 3 days had passed since New York. 3 days of watching her father's hopeful face across the dinner table. 3 days of seeing factory workers wave at her in town. Unaware that their futures hung on a decision that was tearing her apart, the business card sat on her dresser. Nathaniel Cross's name embossed in elegant letters. She had picked it up and put it down 100 times. Each time, the weight of it felt heavier. It was nearly midnight when she finally dialed. He answered on the second ring. Miss Hayes. His voice was alert, as if he had been waiting. I was beginning to think you would not call. I have conditions, Rebecca said, her voice steadier than she felt. I am listening. The money goes into the factory account tomorrow. Before anything else happens, my father never knows the real reason you invested. And after the month, you leave Willowbrook alone, forever. Silence stretched across the line. Then, agreed. Pack a bag. A car will pick you up tomorrow at 9. Wait. Rebecca gripped the phone tighter. I need to know something. Why are you really doing this? Another pause. When Nathaniel spoke again, his voice was quieter, almost vulnerable. Because I am tired of being empty, Miss Hayes. And you are the first person in 10 years who looked at me and saw someone worth despising? That kind of honesty is the only thing I cannot buy. The line went dead. Rebecca did not sleep that night. She watched the sun rise over Willowbrook, painting the small town in shades of gold and pink. Memorizing everything about the place she was leaving. When her father found her on the porch at dawn, she lied with a smile. Mr. Cross wants me to stay in New York for a month, she said, to oversee the investment implementation personally. Isn't that great? Thomas Hayes pulled her into a hug, his eyes wet with grateful tears. You saved us, Becca. You saved everyone. If only he knew what it cost. Arrival in a different world, the car that picked her up was not flashy. Just a simple black sedan with a quiet driver who spoke only to confirm her identity. The drive to New York felt both endless and far too short. Rebecca watched Willowbrook disappear in the rearview mirror, wondering if she would recognize herself when she returned. But when they arrived in Manhattan, the car did not stop at the corporate tower. Instead, it pulled up to a beautiful brownstone in the West Village. Tree-lined streets, flower boxes and windows. A neighborhood that felt almost like a home. Nathaniel waited on the steps. Dressed casually in jeans and a navy sweater, he looked younger somehow, less intimidating without the armor of expensive suits. Welcome, he said simply, taking her bag. The inside of the brownstone was nothing like his office. It was warm, filled with books, comfortable furniture, and soft lighting. There were paintings on the walls that looked personal rather than expensive, photographs of places rather than people. Rebecca asked, surprised. One of them. Nathaniel set her bag down. Your room is upstairs. Second door on the left. You will have complete privacy. There is a lock on the door. Rebecca stared at him. I do not understand. What do you not understand? This, she gestured around. All of this? You made it sound like I would be some kind of prisoner, but this feels like you were trying to make me comfortable. Nathaniel met her eyes, and for the first time, she saw uncertainty in them. I have been thinking about what you said. About being a monster? You were right. What I proposed was monstrous. So I am changing the terms. Changing them how? You stay for the month. You let me spend time with you, talk with you, get to know who you really are. But nothing physical happens unless you want it to. No pressure, no expectation, just time. Rebecca felt her defenses crack slightly. Why the change? Because I realized something after you left my office. Nathaniel moved to the window, looking out at the street. I have spent 10 years building walls, collecting things, proving I do not need anyone. And I have been miserable every single day. Maybe it is time to try something different. Like what? He turned back to her, and the vulnerability in his expression was startling. Like learning to be human again. Building bridges the first week was strange. Nathaniel went to work each morning, leaving Rebecca alone in the brownstone with books, streaming services, and a credit card he insisted she use. She explored the neighborhood, walked through Washington Square Park, called her father daily with updates about the factory's transformation. The money was real. Equipment arrived. Consultants were hired. Workers received bonuses. Thomas Hayes's voice grew stronger with each conversation, the weight of worry lifting. At night, Nathaniel came home, and they ate dinner together. At first, the meals were awkward, filled with long silences and safe topics. But gradually, something shifted. Tell me about Willowbrook, Nathaniel said one evening over pasta. What is it really like? Rebecca described Friday night football games where the whole town gathered. The annual Harvest Festival. How everyone knew everyone else's business, for better or worse. How Mrs. Morrison from the bakery still made her birthday cake every year, even though she was 26. "It sounds nice," Nathaniel said quietly. "It is." "What was your hometown like?" His expression darkened. "Cold. My father was obsessed with success, with appearances. My mother left when I was 14, just disappeared one day. No note, no explanation. My father told everyone she died, but she did not. No, I found her 3 years ago. She lives in California with a new family." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "She said leaving was the only way she could breathe again, that my father's world was suffocating her."
Oh.
"Did you talk to her?" "For about 5 minutes. Then I left." "What do you say to someone who chose freedom over you?" Rebecca reached across the table without thinking, her hand covering his. "I am sorry." Nathaniel looked at their joined hands, surprise flickering across his face. "Why are you being kind to me?" "Because pain is pain," Rebecca said softly. "And I think you have been carrying yours alone for too long." Something changed between them that night. The walls began to come down. The community center 2 weeks into her stay, Rebecca was going stir-crazy. "I need to do something," she told Nathaniel over breakfast. "I am not used to being idle." "What do you want to do?" "In Willowbrook, I volunteer at the youth center 3 days a week. Is there anything like that here?" Nathaniel made a call. That afternoon, they walked to a community center in Chelsea. A busy place full of after-school programs, senior activities, and people from every background imaginable. The director, a warm woman named Patricia Cole, showed them around. "We always need volunteers," she said, "especially for the homework help program." Rebecca signed up immediately. Nathaniel surprised her by doing the same. "You?" she asked as they walked home. "Why not?" "You said I needed to learn to be human. Seems like a good place to start." The next day, they returned together. Rebecca helped middle schoolers with math while Nathaniel worked with high school students on college essays. She watched him lean in to listen to a nervous teenager talk about his dreams of becoming an engineer. Saw the patience as he helped another student restructure her. Personal statement. This was not the cold businessman from the corporate tower. This was someone different. After their shift, a little girl named Emma approached Nathaniel shyly. She was maybe 7, with dark curls and big brown eyes. "Mr. she said quietly. "Can you help me read?" Nathaniel looked panicked for a moment, then knelt down to her level. "Of course. What are we reading?" Emma pulled out a worn copy of a picture book. For the next 20 minutes, Rebecca watched Nathaniel sit cross-legged on the floor, helping Emma sound out words, praising every success, patiently correcting mistakes without making her feel bad. When Emma's grandmother came to pick her up, the little girl hugged Nathaniel tightly. "Thank you, Mr. Nathaniel. You are nice." Walking home, Nathaniel was quiet. "You were good with her," Rebecca said. "I did not expect it to feel like that." "Like what?" "Like mattering." Stopped walking, turning to face her on the tree-lined street. "I've built companies, made millions, closed deals that changed industries. None of it ever felt as important as helping that little girl read one book." Rebecca smiled. "Welcome to the real world. Is this what it is like in Willowbrook? This feeling?" "Every day." Nathaniel stared at her for a long moment. "I think I am beginning to understand why you were willing to sacrifice so much. It is not about the factory. It is about the people." Finally figuring that out? Better late than never. Started walking again, but reached out and took her hand. Rebecca led him. They volunteered at the community center 3 times a week after that. Nathaniel began arriving earlier, staying later, learning the names of kids and seniors alike. Rebecca watched him transform, saw him laugh genuinely for the first time, saw him relax into conversations without calculating angles. One evening, as they walked home through the autumn streets, Nathaniel spoke quietly. "I need to tell you something." "What?" "I am glad you called. These past 3 weeks have been the best of my life." Rebecca's heart beat faster. "Nathaniel, I should tell you something too." "What?" "I am not sure I hate you anymore." He stopped walking, turning to face her. The streetlight cast shadows across his face, but his eyes were clear and honest. Good, because I think I am falling in love with you. Before Rebecca could respond, he leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She did not. The kiss was gentle, tentative, nothing like she had feared. It was a question rather than a demand. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. "Is this okay?" Nathaniel whispered. Rebecca nodded, unable to speak. They walked the rest of the way home hand in hand. And for the first time since leaving Willowbrook, Rebecca felt something other than obligation. She felt hope. Unexpected visitor, the fourth week began with a surprise. Rebecca woke to find Nathaniel in the kitchen, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "What is wrong?" she asked. "I got a call this morning." He poured coffee with shaking hands. "My mother. She is in New York. She wants to see me. You going to meet her?" "I do not know. Part of me wants to tell her to leave. But another part needs to understand why. Why she left. Why she never came back?" Rebecca moved closer, taking his hand. "Do you want me to come with you?" Relief flooded his face. "Would you?" They met Helen Cross at a quiet cafe in Brooklyn. She was in her 50s, elegantly dressed, with the same blue eyes as her son. When she saw Nathaniel, tears immediately filled her eyes. "Thank you for coming," she said. Nathaniel sat stiffly. "You have 20 minutes. Talk." Helen flinched, but nodded. She explained how his father's controlling nature had suffocated her, how he had monitored her every move, how leaving had been survival, not abandonment. "But you left me," Nathaniel said, his voice breaking. "I was 14. I needed you, I know." Helen was crying now. "It is the biggest regret of my life. I thought your father would let me take you, but he had lawyers, money, power. He threatened to destroy me if I even tried. I was weak, Nathaniel. I chose myself over you, and I will never forgive myself for that." Rebecca watched Nathaniel struggle with emotions he had buried for 20 years. Finally, she spoke up. "Mrs. Cross, I am Rebecca. Nathaniel and I have been spending time together, and I need you to know something. Your son has become one of the kindest, most genuine people I have ever met. Whatever mistakes you made, they did not define him." Helen looked at Rebecca gratefully, then back at her son. "She is right, you know. You are nothing like your father. You chose differently." "I almost did not," Nathaniel admitted. "I almost became exactly like him. But you did not." Helen reached across the table, stopping just short of touching his hand. That took strength. The meeting lasted 2 hours. No magical reconciliation happened, but when they left, Nathaniel hugged his mother for the first time in 20 years. In the car afterward, he broke down completely, years of pain finally released. Rebecca held him, letting him cry, understanding that sometimes healing requires witnessing. "Thank you," he whispered when he finally caught his breath. "For what?" "For showing me it is okay to feel. For the past month, you have given me more than time. You gave me a chance to become who I should have been all along." Rebecca cupped his face in her hands. "You did that yourself. I just watched." That night, back at the brownstone, Nathaniel took her hand. "The month is almost over. You can go home tomorrow if you want. What if I do not want to?" "Then stay. Not because of a deal. Not because of the factory. Stay because you want to. Because this, whatever this is between us, feels real." "Ack!" Rebecca kissed him. And this time there was no hesitation, no doubt. "It is real. And I am not ready to leave." Coming home together 6 weeks after Rebecca first arrived in New York, she and Nathaniel drove to Willowbrook together. The autumn leaves were at peak color, painting the countryside in brilliant reds and golds. Nathaniel drove while Rebecca navigated, their hands intertwined on the center console. "Are you nervous?" she asked. "Terrified," he admitted. "What if they hate me?" "They will not hate you. You saved the factory. They do not know the whole story." Rebecca squeezed his hand. "No one needs to know the whole story. What matters is where we are now." As they entered Willowbrook, Nathaniel slowed down, taking in the small town. The main street, with its local shops, the park where children played, the factory standing proud against the skyline. This was the place Rebecca loved enough to sacrifice everything for. "It really is beautiful," he said softly. They pulled up to the Hayes house, a modest two-story with a wraparound porch. Thomas Hayes was outside raking leaves, but dropped the rake when he saw them. He pulled her into a tight hug, then turned to Nathaniel with an extended hand. "Mr. Cross, we owe you everything. Please come inside." Over coffee and Janet Morrison's famous apple pie, Thomas caught them up on the factory's transformation. Production was up 30%. They had hired 20 new workers. Orders were coming in from retailers who had previously rejected them. "It is like a miracle," Thomas said, his eyes bright. "The whole town is thriving again." It was not a miracle. "Dad, it was good business and hard work from everyone here." Speaking of work, Thomas looked between them curiously. "How long are you staying, Mr. Cross?" "Please, call me Nathaniel." He glanced at Rebecca. "Actually, I was hoping to discuss that. I have been thinking about opening a regional office here, overseeing our investments in smaller manufacturing companies throughout Pennsylvania." Rebecca's eyes widened. They had not discussed this. "You mean you would move here?" Thomas asked, surprised. "If the town will have me? And if Rebecca thinks it is a good idea?" All eyes turned to her. Rebecca felt her heart swell. Nathaniel was willing to leave his Manhattan life, his corporate tower, everything he had built, to be near her. "I think Willowbrook could use someone like you," she said, unable to hide her smile. That evening, as they walked through town, people stopped to thank Nathaniel. George Miller insisted on buying them dinner at the local diner. Mrs. Morrison hugged him like he was family. Teenagers at the ice cream shop asked for business advice. "This is overwhelming," Nathaniel whispered as they finally escaped to the town park. "This is community," Rebecca corrected. "Get used to it." They sat on a bench overlooking the pond, watching the sunset paint the water gold and pink. Nathaniel pulled Rebecca closer, and she rested her head on his shoulder. "I need to tell you something," he said. "What?" "That first night, when you called me a monster, you were right. I was hollow inside, filling the emptiness with power and control. But you changed that. You made me want to be better, Nathaniel. You did the work yourself. With you as my reason." He turned to face her. "I love you, Rebecca Hayes. Not because of some deal or arrangement. I love who you are, what you stand for, the way you see the world. You make me want to be worthy of you." Tears filled Rebecca's eyes. "I love you too. I fought it for so long because of how we started. But the man I have gotten to know over these weeks, that is who I fell in love with. Even though I was a jerk in the beginning, especially because you were willing to change." She kissed him softly. That takes real courage. Confronting the past the next morning, Rebecca found Nathaniel sitting on her porch at dawn, staring at his phone with a troubled expression. "What is wrong?" she asked, sitting beside him. "My father found out I am here. He is on his way." Rebecca felt a chill. "What does he want? To remind me who I really am? To drag me back into his world?" Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "He heard about the factory investment, about me volunteering at community centers. He thinks I have lost my mind." "You have not lost your mind. You found your heart. Try telling him that." Richard Cross arrived 2 hours later in a limousine that looked absurdly out of place on Willowbrook's Main Street. He was tall like his son, but where Nathaniel had softened over the weeks, Richard was all hard edges and cold calculation. "This is what you have been wasting your time on?" Richard surveyed the town with barely concealed disdain. "A dying factory town, and playing house with some small-town girl? Watch how you speak about her," Nathaniel said, his voice dangerous. "Or what? You will throw away everything we built? Your mother made you soft once, and I fixed that. Now this woman is doing the same thing." "No," Nathaniel stepped forward. "Mom showed me love before you destroyed it. Rebecca is helping me remember what that feels like." Richard laughed coldly. "Love is weakness. I taught you that. Power, control, winning, that is what matters." "You taught me to be empty," Nathaniel shot back. "To collect things and call it success. To use people and call it business. You taught me to be exactly like you, and I was miserable every single day. You were effective. I was alone. Nathaniel's voice echoed through the street. Several townspeople had stopped to watch, but he did not care. I was 34 years old and had no one who actually cared about me. Not one genuine relationship. Not one real friend. Just transactions and manipulations. That is the price of greatness. That is the price of being you. And I am done paying it. Richard's expression hardened. If you continue down this path, I will cut you off completely. No more family money, no more connections, no more safety net. Good. Nathaniel moved to stand beside Rebecca, taking her hand. I do not want your money or your world. I want to build something real with people who actually matter, starting here. You will fail. You will come crawling back. Maybe I will fail. But at least I will fail as myself, not as your puppet. Nathaniel met his father's eyes steadily. I forgive you for what you did to Mom, for what you did to me. Not because you deserve it, but because I need to let it go. But I am done trying to earn your approval. I choose differently. Richard stared at his son for a long moment, then turned without another word and got back into the limousine. As it drove away, Rebecca squeezed Nathaniel's hand. Are you okay? She asked. I am more than okay. He pulled her into his arms. For the first time in my life, I am free. The gathered townspeople erupted in applause. George Miller clapped Nathaniel on the shoulder. Mrs. Morrison handed him a fresh cinnamon roll. Even old Eddie gave him an approving nod. Welcome to Willowbrook, son, Thomas Hayes said, shaking his hand. Looks like you are one of us now, building a future over the following months. Nathaniel transformed. He opened his regional office in a renovated building on Main Street. He continued volunteering at the community center, now organizing programs for young entrepreneurs. He bought a small house 3 blocks from Rebecca's family home. He and Rebecca fell into an easy rhythm. Morning coffee on his porch, working at the factory together, evening walks through town, Sunday dinners with her father. It was simple, ordinary, and more fulfilling than anything Nathaniel had experienced. One evening, 6 months after they first met, Nathaniel asked Rebecca to meet him at the factory after everyone had left. She found him in the main production floor, standing among the machines that represented so much of their story. What is this about? She asked, curious. This is where it started, Nathaniel said. Your father's dream, the thing you loved enough to sacrifice everything for. And I realized something tonight. What? I want to build something worth sacrificing for. Something that matters beyond money or success. He moved closer, taking both her hands. I want to build a life with you, Rebecca. A real partnership based on love and respect and shared values. He knelt down, pulling a simple ring from his pocket. Not a huge diamond, but a beautiful sapphire surrounded by small stones that caught the factory's fluorescent lights. Will you marry me? He asked. Not because of a deal, or because I saved your factory. Marry me because we make each other better. Because I cannot imagine my life without you in it. Because you've taught me what really matters. Tears streamed down Rebecca's face. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Nathaniel stood, sliding the ring onto her finger, and kissed her with all the love and gratitude he felt. When they finally pulled apart, both were crying. I was so afraid when I first met you, Rebecca admitted. Afraid of what you would take from me? I never imagined you would give me so much instead. You gave me everything first. You gave me a reason to change, a place to belong. And love, I never thought I deserved. They held each other in the quiet factory, surrounded by machines that represented 300 families who depended on choices made in that space. But more than that, surrounded by the proof that people can change, that love can heal, and that sometimes the worst beginnings lead to the best endings. 6 months later, the wedding was small. Held in Willowbrook's town square on a perfect spring morning, the entire town turned out to celebrate. Emma from the community center was the flower girl. George Miller walked Rebecca down the aisle alongside her father. Mrs. Morrison made the cake. Even Helen Cross attended, sitting in the front row with tears in her eyes as she watched her son marry, the woman who had saved him. When Nathaniel and Rebecca exchanged vows, They spoke from the heart. No fancy speeches, just simple truths. You turned my impossible choice into the best decision I ever made, Rebecca said. You showed me that people can change, that second chances are real, and that love is worth fighting for. You saw through my walls when everyone else saw only what I wanted them to see, Nathaniel replied. You demanded I'd be better, and then you loved me when I tried. You gave me home, purpose, and a reason to wake up grateful every single day. As they kissed to thunderous applause, neither of them thought about how terribly their story had begun. They thought only about how beautifully it was continuing. That evening, at the reception in the factory that had brought them together, Nathaniel pulled Rebecca onto the dance floor. "What are you thinking?" she asked as they swayed to the music. "That I almost missed this. I almost let my father's voice, my own emptiness, destroy the best thing that ever happened to me. But you did not miss it. You chose differently because of you." "No," Rebecca touched his face gently. "Because of you? I gave you a reason, but you did the work. You faced your demons, changed your path, and became the man I see now." Nathaniel kissed her forehead. "What do we do now?" "We keep building. Our life, our community, our family someday. We keep choosing love over fear, connection over control, people over profit." "Sounds perfect," as they danced, surrounded by 300 people whose lives were better because of choices made in crisis. Rebecca thought about that terrified girl who had gone to New York expecting to lose everything. She had been prepared to sacrifice her dignity, her body, her sense of self. Instead, she gained a partner, a love story, and proof that even in our darkest moments, we can find light if we are brave enough to demand better. Both from others and from ourselves, Nathaniel spun her under his arm. And Rebecca laughed, the sound full of joy and promise. Their story had started with an impossible choice and a monstrous proposal. It became something beautiful, instead, because sometimes the worst beginnings, when met with courage and the willingness to grow, transform into the very best endings, and theirs was just beginning.